Hello everyone and welcome to the first webinar from the AI Nurses Network. We will be running these webinars on a regular basis and we'll have nurses from around the world speaking about how they're using artificial intelligence in their area of research, clinical practice and education, with a mix of technical and the more applied side of AI. My name is Siobhan and I'm a senior lecturer at King's College London. I'm a nurse by trade, but I came into nursing later in life and I have a background in informatics before I became a nurse. So because I have a technical and clinical background, all of my teaching and research is on technology and healthcare. And now that AI is a hot topic in informatics, I'm starting to integrate that into my teaching and research as well, because it's an important area that nurses need to have expertise in and contribute to. So artificial intelligence is a very big field that develops and applies advanced computational techniques to digital data. And AI has many areas within it that look at different aspects of human intelligence and try to mimic it using software and hardware. So AI could look at anything from abstract reasoning to learning, decision making, communicating, or interacting with the virtual or physical world around us if you're into robotics, chatbots, or gaming. And AI has been around for a long time. It's not a new phenomenon, although it might feel like that, because AI is already integrated and part of many technologies that we use every day, even though may not be aware of it. So algorithms are used a lot on social media platforms to analyze data on how people use them so that they can predict the content that we might like to see. And AI also drives the advertising you see on social media based on your previous preferences. Algorithms are also used in search engines like Google and others to help you find information and resources online. They're used in email spam filtering, in grammar checks, in writing software like Microsoft Word, and in virtual assistants like Siri on the iPhone, etc. So AI is almost everywhere in the digital world. And generative AI has also been around for quite a while in the form of chatbots. They're not a new phenomenon either. They've been slowly improving over the years. The very first chatbot that was created was called Eliza back in the 1960s, and since then there've been a string of very popular chatbots, with Masuki, also known as Cookie, being the most famous up until ChatGPT a few years ago because Suki won the Loebner Prize multiple times, which is the prize given to an AI computer program that is deemed the most human-like. And chatbots have been used in many different ways in higher education over the years to support students and staff to varying degrees of success. This is a nice systematic review on that topic from 2021, and it gives an overview of 50 plus research studies that have used chatbots in different ways in university education. So chatbots, for example, can help answer student questions. They can provide more personalized virtual learning environments, possibly improve student engagement and support. They can be used to assess learning, etc. But despite the potential benefits, as we all know, up until now, chatbots were not widely used in universities because they have several limitations. Some problems include the accuracy of responses they provide, the privacy of data that's put into a chatbot if it's a commercial one, the cost of developing or purchasing one and keeping it running, and attitudes of staff and students towards using this type of technology because some people prefer face-to-face interactions over virtual ones. So up until recently, people didn't really have a huge interest in chatbots. I certainly didn't, as all the ones I tried were not great. So I'd never really done research on chatbots up until sort of 2022, 23, when it all changed quite dramatically. Since the end of 2022, the chatbot phenomenon has really exploded because of large investments in machine learning and natural language processing over the years, which have led to big improvements in how AI can analyze data and respond to human users in the form of large language models. And that explosion has led to other forms of generative AI coming on the scene very quickly, not just chatbots. So these AI tools haven't come out of nowhere. They've been under development in various guises for a long time, and now they're finally at a stage where they're widely available and relatively easy to use. So what is ChatGPT? Because it's definitely the most famous chatbot I think now. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which is a family of large language models. And this is one type of AI model that uses deep learning or neural networks and reinforcement learning algorithms, which are both types of machine learning. It uses those to generate probabilities of a sequence of words that a typical human interaction is likely to create by training the model on a large data set of text. So if you haven't used ChatGPT yet, I'd encourage you to create an account. It's free to use and play around with the older versions of it, and you can see what you think of ChatGPT yourself. There are various iterations of this language model since the first version was released in 2018, and there's speculation obviously that there's going to be more advanced versions of GPT over the years. But the current version, I think, is a paid subscription version for the more advanced functionality. I think it's about maybe $20 a year, so it's not a huge amount of money. I don't know all the nuances between the different versions of ChatGPT. I've only used version 3.5 myself because that was the one that was released in November 2022 and caused a bit of a storm because it was a big improvement on previous versions, and millions of people started using it in all sorts of interesting ways and debating about how it could transform areas of society, including nursing and education. And we're all pretty much still in the middle of that conversation a few years later. It's also useful to know that the dataset that GPT 3.5, the freely available version, was trained on includes a range of sources such as internet websites like Wikipedia and Reddit, online books, research articles, etc. And some of those datasets are probably a red flag because they have a lot of inbuilt biases in them in terms of gender, race, etc. So ChatGPT might not be the most trustworthy AI tool, which is why some people are concerned about its widespread use, and we'll come back to this issue in relation to the trustworthiness of generative AI. And since ChatGPT came out, there's been a barrage of generative AI tools to create text, images, audio, videos, animation, or a mixture of digital media when prompted to do so by a human user. In terms of AI writing tools, you might be familiar with Grammarly, which corrects spelling and grammar mistakes, but now there's lots of other AI writing tools like Quillbot, Writeful, and PaperPal. And out of all these, I think WordTune is probably my favorite as it's an AI-powered writing companion or reader. So it summarizes long documents and also rewrites content, and it's quite good and easy to use. So the good news and the bad news is that ChatGPT is not alone, because there are now more and more of these generative AI tools popping up all the time. And it's not just about generating written text, as I said. Other types of generative AI have also emerged, including image generators that create photorealistic digital images from text prompts, applications like DALL-E 2 and Midjourney. There are also AI video and animation generators, which can take a prompt or script and turn it into a video or animation with customizable options for languages and avatars. So things like Pictory and Animaker. There are also AI audio generators, platforms like Murph and PlayHT, which are text-to-speech generators. And of course, there are music generators, applications like SoundDraw and many others. So there's a long and growing list of generative AI tools that we could potentially use in nursing education. Some colleagues and I published a two-part series of articles in the Nursing Times where we did a SWOT analysis of generative AI tools and how they could be used in nursing education, because nurses can leverage the strengths and opportunities of generative AI to create new learning opportunities for students, but we also need to be aware of the weaknesses and threats that these new digital tools pose, and we need to teach students about all those. So we started by looking at the strengths of generative AI tools, and the obvious one is that they can process very large amounts of text, audio and video data very quickly and identify patterns or trends in the data that might be difficult for humans to detect manually. And they can use what they learn from that data to respond to human prompts relatively accurately and generate responses in writing, but also in images, audio, video and animation, which is a huge change in how digital media is created. Another strength of AI is that the more you interact with it and give it more data via prompts, the more it learns. And I've put learns in inverted commas for a reason, because the learning that AI does is always based on the quality of the data that it's trained on. So if there's something wrong with the underlying data, then what it learns, could be rubbish basically. And we'll come back to this in a minute because it's a big issue with AI. So I know we had a chatbot example already in ChatGPT, but as generative AI tools can process large amounts of data quickly, an obvious way they could be used in nursing education to support students is via a chatbot designed specifically for nursing. It might, for example, encourage nursing students via interactive conversations on their smartphone to attend class, speak to a member of faculty if they don't understand something or if they're having problems, access university services such as the library, student support, etc. A chatbot might also be beneficial during a student's clinical placement. It could direct a student to educational resources such as online books and videos while they're training in hospital and community settings. That may be particularly useful to support student learning in clinical areas where nurses are very busy or understaffed, or where educational resources are limited or inaccessible, which is quite a lot of hospitals in some countries. And because generative AI can adjust its responses over time, a chatbot could, in theory, provide more tailored advice and information to a nursing student that aligns with their individual learning needs. But that type of generative AI tool would require a lot of time and money to create something that's quite tailored to nursing. But there are people working on that, and I'll give you an example. So this is a nice research study from a research group in Taiwan who created a chatbot for nursing students to help them learn about vaccine administration for pregnant women and newborn babies. They did a small pre and post test experiment with 36 students. Half of them used the chatbot and the other half just got standard lectures. I can't remember all the measures they took, but they did interviews with the students as well, which suggested that the chatbot could improve learning and self-efficacy. They have some screenshots of the chatbot in the published paper, which is really nice to see. So I think we'll see more of this kind of research in nursing education going forward. And good quality chatbots that can actually help students, as well as teaching staff and possibly university administrators and management as well. Another way you might use generative AI tools is to use the audio or voice generators that can create speech from text. So these could be used to make podcasts, videos, professional presentations, or any media that requires a voiceover, and they can do that very, very quickly. So this might help enrich online educational resources that we develop because a diverse range of what they call AI voices are available to choose from and in multiple languages, which is very handy. Some of the AI audio tools also allow you to edit and refine the pitch, speed, emphasis, and interjections in the voiceovers that are generated, which could be useful. And that might make digital resources easier for students to listen to and understand, particularly international students who are studying in a foreign language or students with learning disabilities. I'm always conscious of my accent because I know an Irish accent is not the easiest one to listen to or to understand because we tend to speak quite quickly and don't always pronunciate our words very clearly. So I'm starting to use these AI tools to record my teaching lectures and make them a bit easier for students to digest. But I suppose the downside of that is that it will be some generic female voice that's not me. And if my students don't hear my voice when they listen to the stuff, then it might become quite impersonal and it might be a bit of a turn off for some students. But we can do research on this to see what kind of impact these AI tools are having. Because for teaching staff who are very busy and short on time to record things, these AI tools might be very useful. When it comes to the weaknesses of generative AI tools, as I mentioned, the main one is that they rely on the quality of the data they are trained on to work and respond to the people who are using them. So if there's anything wrong with the underlying data set, whether it's text, images, audio or video, then the output or content that is generated by the AI tool may not be reliable, which could lead to biased results. And this is something we need to teach students about. The concept is called algorithmic bias, so that they understand the limitations of AI tools because they're not perfect and they need to be scrutinized just like anything else that we use. So critical judgment is always needed to check the accuracy and quality of any AI generated content. There's a nice TEDx talk on algorithmic bias from Joy Bullawhimmy, who's based at MIT, and I'd really recommend watching it because it's quite engaging and informative video. And she also has a great Netflix documentary on coded bias that you could show to your students to help them learn about this and the implications that AI bias has on society, including healthcare. If you're interested in this topic, then this is the seminal research study on algorithmic bias by Obermeyer et al. From 2019, which I'd really recommend reading and suggesting nursing students to read, because it's a good example of how algorithms can lead to racial bias in healthcare. And it's been cited thousands of times. And there is a risk that this problem could be replicated in education as well. So here is one idea of how you might teach nursing students to critique AI tools and highlight their weaknesses. Simple exercises could be developed comparing the outputs of a chatbot with scientific studies and good quality news articles on a particular nursing or health related topic. Students could design a series of different prompts to ask a chatbot to explain up-to-date social, cultural or political issues affecting patients, nurses and or the healthcare system in any country, depending on the topic they're studying. So for example, final year nursing students might be studying leadership and management, and they could ask ChatGPT, why nurses in their country are striking, and compare it to results with scientific studies and up-to-date good quality news articles to see how accurate the AI tool is. Or it might be second or third year group of nursing students and they're studying pharmacology, and they could ask ChatGPT or even Bing AI or Bard from Google or whatever AI tool you want to use, or you could compare across a few different AI chatbots, asking them a series of questions about new drugs such as the new Alzheimer's drug donanemab and how it's going to help patients, and then compare the results of the chatbots with some of the published clinical trials. So the idea is just to cross-check the AI generated output with other sources of good quality information to see if it's accurate or not. And then you could follow that with a nice group discussion in class about the impact of AI generated content and how it could impact patients, nurses and society more generally if people are using these digital tools and consuming their content and assuming that the content that they produce is 100% accurate and unbiased, which is not the case. And there is already some preliminary evidence that nursing students like using AI chatbots, such as this study from 2022, which used a chatbot called SafeBot in a simulated emergency situation to help nursing students make clinical decisions to improve patient safety. There was over 100 students participated, and some of them, while they felt the navigation, the layout and the content of the chatbot could be improved, they thought integrating a digital conversational agent into professional practice might help support nursing students in delivering better care. Nurse educators could also use AI image or video generators to teach nursing students about algorithmic bias to help improve their digital literacy. And this is just one of many things you could do. So for example, in a computer tutorial, you could ask nursing students to use 2 or 3 different AI image or video generators to help create images or videos that will go into a patient education leaflet or could be used online or on social media by the WHO, the CDC or other healthcare related agency to inform the public about whatever health topic the students are studying. And you could design the learning activity in such a way that the content generated by AI could be biased in terms of age, gender, ethnicity, etc. And then students could get peer review feedback from others in the group on the patient education or public health resource they created using AI tools to see if the content is appropriate, if it's accurate and easy for patients to understand while learning something useful about AI. Just to show you an example of some images we created using an AI image generator called Midjourney, my colleague Dominique, who's based at the University of Calgary, asked to produce images of nurses talking to a robot, and this is what she got. It was a year or two ago now, so Midjourney I'm sure has improved since then, but you might notice that all the nurses are female. The ethnic diversity is actually pretty good, but the data the model was trained on led it to think that all nurses are women. And while that oversight might seem harmless or even humorous, you can begin to see how AI generated text, images, videos, etc. may perpetuate biases and reinforce stereotypes or even omit minority perspectives. But the good thing about it is that if you modify the prompts that you use and you tell the AI tool to introduce a diverse range of genders, then it will do that. But its initial offering was biased. And of course, you have to be aware that this bias exists in the first place to be able to spot it in the AI output and change your prompts accordingly, which might not always be feasible. My colleague Dominique also wrote up a really nice case study of how you could bring generative AI into simulation education, and she ran a session herself with her own nursing students in Calgary. I don't have time to go through it today because it's quite detailed, but that simulation scenario is published in full in the Nursing Times article that I mentioned, and it's linked on the slide if you're interested in introducing AI into your clinical skills teaching to improve students' learning. So moving on to the opportunities of generative AI, they centre on a few things. I've discussed the first one already, which is to help students think more critically about the content that these AI tools create, whether it's text, images, audio, video or animation, and appreciate the limitations of AI and the impact it might have on healthcare and society more generally. But of course, there are huge opportunities for educators and our learning technologists to use these new digital platforms to create more interactive and engaging educational resources, which will hopefully improve how students learn all sorts of subjects. And there's lots of opportunities to help improve students' communication skills and their digital literacy skills, because these AI tools are easy and fun to use and they're quite topical. So it should be, I think, an easy sell to students to get them to use generative AI as part of their learning. And I did put prompt engineering on the last bullet point on the slide as a possible skill that students might need to learn. But to be honest, I'm not 100% convinced of that yet, because I think AI will improve a lot in the coming years, which might make this skill rather irrelevant. But there's lots of debate online at the moment about whether prompt engineering is something we should teach people or not. But for nursing students, I think we could potentially park it for a while. And if it does continue to be useful, then come back to it as a skill to teach them in the future. And I've written a small little editorial about prompt engineering in nursing education with some colleagues in case it's useful. As well as all the generative AI tools, an exciting development have been plugins that can extend the functionality of ChatGPT and other tools. I'll just run through a couple that I've come across, but there will be lots more we could potentially use to create digital resources for teaching and learning. So for example, Stories is a great plugin for ChatGPT that creates an illustrated digital storyboard based on the prompts provided by the user. This could be used to create role plays that guide nursing students through a range of patient scenarios in hospital or community settings, because a rich narrative can accompany the visual content to communicate an engaging story. And we could ask students to create these stories themselves as part of an assessment. The other two plugins that I've tried very quickly, just with myself, not with my students yet, are Wolfgram, which is a mathematical product that can help you solve math problems. And this might be useful when nursing students are learning medication management and drug calculation skills. And it can provide nice visualizations of data as well. But you have to create a ChatGPT account and log in to use it. Another plugin is called Show Me Diagrams, which can generate various types of diagrams in real time, such as mind maps. So, for example, we could ask nursing students to use this to demonstrate their understanding maybe of pharmacology, such as families of drugs and their associated side effects and contraindications, while improving their digital literacy skills. So there's lots of different ways you can use AI tools in nursing education. It just depends on how much time you have to go through them and see how you can apply them, and it's obviously then to do research to see if they improve learning outcomes or not compared to traditional approaches to nursing education. And finally, coming to the threats of generative AI and how we might address those in nursing education. Firstly, there are privacy and security concerns when large data sets from many online sources are used to train AI tools, and when information from human users is used to prompt them. So we need to teach our students that no sensitive or personal information should be used to prompt generative AI tools, because that data then belongs to the technology company that's providing the tool, and you've no control over what happens to it. And we should also educate nursing students about data protection and the importance of data privacy in relation to digital tools, from social media to mobile apps and generative AI. Equity and fairness in accessing and using AI tools is also a threat, as digital inequality already exists in many countries around the world, where some groups of people have limited or no access to the internet and therefore generative AI, or they have poor digital literacy skills, which means they may struggle to use this technology. And this may widen the gap between students who can afford AI tools and have the skills to use them, and those who cannot, which might disproportionately affect students who are already disadvantaged and struggling at university. So as educators, we need to make sure AI tools are part of the standard IT provision so that all students can readily access them, and then teach students how to use generative AI appropriately to support their digital literacy and professional development and to help minimise digital inequalities. Copyright is also becoming an issue, particularly with AI image, video and music generators. Getty Images, which is a large visual media company in the United States, is pursuing legal action against Stability AI, a commercial company who created an AI image generation tool for allegedly stealing their stock images to develop their digital product without paying the appropriate licensing fees. So, as nurse educators, we should follow our university guidelines around which generative AI tools we can use, because universities may vet and approve a handful of these AI tools to make sure that they're safe and appropriate to use. And of course, plagiarism is something that could be an issue in education if students use generative AI tools to write assessments instead of doing the reading, critical thinking, and writing themselves, which means they may miss out on learning important knowledge and skills. So we should teach students about what their university considers appropriate AI use, particularly when it comes to preparing and submitting assessments to ensure academic integrity is maintained. And also so students know what is expected around marking to make sure it's fair for everyone and reflects what students have really learned and done themselves. Not surprisingly, alongside all the generative AI tools that have been created over the last few years, others have been developing AI detection tools, particularly to use in education to address plagiarism and deter academic misconduct. You might have heard of GPT-0, which was created by a student at Princeton University in January of 2023, and it went viral very quickly. But of course, since then, Turnitin, Cadmus, and many other educational technology companies have launched their own AI detection software, but there are reports that they may not be wholly reliable. And in some universities have opted out of that Turnitin function, and staff have been advised just to be vigilant and to try and detect AI misuse themselves. It's also very unlikely that AI detection tools will be able to keep up with the changes that are constantly happening with AI now and into the future, especially with large language models that underpin a lot of the AI chatbots and writing tools, because they're going to get better and better over time. So this is going to be an issue about appropriate AI use in nursing education, especially around assessments. There is also research emerging that AI detection software itself could be biased. So this is a study from 2023 where written essays by non-native English students were compared with those from US students, and the essays were run through several AI writing detectors, which misclassified the writing from the non-native English students as being generated by AI when it wasn't. So we need to be really careful if we're going to rely on AI detection tools to flag up plagiarism, and make sure that we have rigorous and fair processes around academic misconduct and the use of AI, and that those processes are clearly communicated to staff and students. So the reality is that we can't ban generative AI tools, we can't stop students using them. So we need to educate nursing students about the appropriate use of these new AI tools, as well as provide a range of authentic assessments like oral presentations and examinations, OSCEs, proctored exams, more group work, reflective assignments, etc., and not just written essays where AI tools could be used, to make sure that we know our nursing students are learning. And if we suspect that a student has used AI to write an assessment, then that we follow the appropriate university guidelines and regulations around academic misconduct. Other threats from generative AI tools include the lack of accountability for outputs, particularly if they are inaccurate or misleading. Disclaimers by those who provide AI tools and a lack of regulation of AI technologies in many countries means that the responsibility of using the outputs produced by a generative AI tool, whether it's text, images, audio, animation, or video, often lies with the person using it. And there might be an assumption that the people who use these AI tools are aware of that, but many may not be, so we need to educate our students about this. There is also a potential loss of trust, integrity, and human creativity due to excessive AI use. For example, it's so easy now to create fake images and fake videos using generative AI tools, and there is already a lot of fake news on all social media platforms and the internet more widely, and some of it is very dangerous. I'm sure we all remember during COVID what some people were suggesting would protect you from that infectious disease. And it'll be so easy now to create even more digital content online that might look and sound real, but it's not. It's been faked and it's been generated by an AI tool, which could have serious implications for public health and society more widely if we can't actually tell the difference between what's real and what's been faked. So this is another important point to teach nursing students about the quality of the sources of information that they use, because they will go on to provide a lot of patient education, including trying to dispel some of the myths that people have about their physical, mental and social health, some of which comes from what patients and their families see online and in particular on social media and in the media more generally. People have also raised concerns about generative AI replacing important human interactions and experiences, which could impact on younger people in particular, as those can be important for emotional and personal development, and they might impact on a person's ability to socialise and live in the real world and not the digital one. So we need to balance teaching nursing students about AI with other forms of in-person education, such as simulation education, mentorship and training and clinical practice, so students can explore how to build therapeutic relationships with patients and professional relationships with peers and colleagues in real world settings. And then finally, the other big threat from generative AI is excessive automation of human work, including aspects of teaching and learning, which could lead to job losses. I know some colleagues think educators and learning technologists are all going to be tossed out of universities to be replaced by chatbots and other AI tools, and that teaching will be completely online and fully automated. But I'm not convinced that will happen for several reasons. Firstly, AI and all that automation is extremely expensive, and it does have limitations and can cause problems, as we've already seen in this presentation. So it's not a perfect solution to all the problems that we have in education. Secondly, and more importantly, students like to meet other students in person, and they like to meet staff and faculty in person. If our experiences during COVID are anything to go by, students hated being stuck at home trying to learn on their own all day in front of a computer, and they hated being taught fully online. Human beings are social creatures, and students like coming to campus to meet other students who are interested in the same profession and to meet staff who are very qualified and experienced professionals in their area of interest. So let's see where this goes, but I personally don't see mass unemployment due to AI in the higher education sector anytime soon, and certainly not in nursing education. As there are quite a few threats from generative AI and technology more broadly, I always teach my nursing students about digital professionalism so that they understand the risks involved in creating, sharing, and consuming digital content online, whether it's AI generated or not. This is a review that some colleagues and I published on that topic a few years ago in case it's helpful, and although it was before the arrival of generative AI tools, I think a lot of aspects in that review are still relevant to Gen AI. So to conclude, generative AI is here to stay whether we like it or not. So the sooner we get to grips with it as nurse educators, the better for ourselves and for our students. No doubt these digital tools will continue to evolve and improve in the future. So teaching nursing students about their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats and how to use them appropriately is important, and I think it will be beneficial for students long term and for the nursing profession, because patients are likely to use ChatGPT and other AI tools to find information on diseases, treatments, etc. And generative AI can be used in different ways, not just in education, but also in different areas of clinical practice like public health, research and policy, all areas where nurses work. So it's an important topic to teach students for their professional careers. But because we've limited time, money and expertise, we need to prioritise what problems nursing students and staff have that can be addressed by generative AI, and balance using these AI tools with many other forms of learning and assessment to make sure students have a holistic experience and develop a range of knowledge and skills, not just digital stuff, so that they can deliver high quality patient care. So that's everything from me. Thank you for listening, and I hope some of that was useful for you. So that concludes this webinar from the AI Nurses Network. Our next webinar is from Dr. Vivian Yu, based at the Polytechnic University of Hong Kong, and you can find her webinar on our website and our YouTube channel. Thank you.